Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and thank you very much for making some time out of your day to check it out. I know everybody's busy and you can't watch every YouTube channel out there, so thanks a lot for watching Intuitive Angling here. Guys, I got some really good news I'm excited to share with y'all about our war against forward-facing sonar and Livescope. The last 2 weeks there's been some major developments that I am so happy to hear. You know, if you guys have watched the channel much, you know that I've been the most vocal proponent against having Livescope and forward-facing sonar banned from our tournaments, and it's been an uphill battle. Even though the majority of the bass fishing public, I'm going to put it at least 80%, is against forward-facing sonar technology, you've had a tremendous amount of pushback by the 20% that are fully vested in it, and a lot of those 20% have really spent a lot of time villainizing me about my position on it, and they've also said I've been wasting my time and a dinosaur, it's never going to change. It's changing, guys. It's fixing to change right now, and I'll stand by my prediction. I think within the next less than 3 years from now, you're going to see forward-facing sonar banned or severely limited from tournaments, and what's happened is a huge development in that direction. Okay, here guys, here's what's happened here, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the process of why it happened. The last month, if you guys have followed tournaments, you know Bassmaster and MLF have had their northern smallmouth swing. And guys, if you've paid attention to it at all, in a nutshell, you could save all your time even reading about it or thinking about it, because all it's been dudes bobbing around in 3-foot waves with a spinning rod and a flatworm in open water, staring at their Livescope, saying, there he is, oh, he moved away from it, oh, there he's, oh, he's got it. That's everything that's happened. Livescope has 100% dominated those tournaments for the last month. It's dominated it all year, not just the last month. It's dominated 95 to 98% of the tournaments on any level across the country have been won Livescoping, but specifically the smallmouth events where you can't even get a check unless you're doing it. And what has happened is, after that last tournament we had last week at the St. Lawrence River, the Bassmaster Elite Series up there, the pros have been coming out of the woodwork vocalizing their opposition to Livescope. They basically said they had enough of it. They're sick of it. They've held their mouth. They've been quiet for long enough, and they're starting to come out against forward-facing sonar and Livescope. This is the first time, guys, because in the past you haven't seen any pros come out against it, because there's reasons why. They don't come out against it because they don't want to make waves with the tournament organizations. They don't want to be ostracized for coming out against it. If they have any alignment with an electronics company, those electronics companies basically tell those guys, you better put a piece of tape over your mouth, not say a bad word about forward-facing sonar. And they don't want to make waves. But what has happened is these anglers out there that have worked for decades and decades to develop their own style in fishing, they've mastered a technique of flipping, they've mastered a technique of spinnerbait fishing, mastered a chatterbait technique, they've developed styles, they've learned about bass movement and behavior and seasonal patterns, which takes decades to learn. They've worked diligently for decades honing their craft, and now all the skills they possess are worthless. All these Bassmaster Elite Series pros, or not all of them, but most of them, all the pros out there that have crafted and spent tens of thousands of hours becoming masters at what they do, it's worthless now, guys. It's worthless to them, because they get out there and they're getting their asses kicked by 20-year-old kids that have $30,000 worth of electronics on the boat, know how to decipher that technology, and they can go to places like Lake Champlain or the St. Lawrence River and never seen it before. They don't know anything about it. Then they get out there, get out in that open water, roam around with Livescope, and they video game fish and they win tournaments. And that is the precipice which has pushed these pros over the brink. And if you've noticed the last couple weeks, there has been an increased amount of blogs and social media posts about pros coming out against it. But the main thing is, guys, is I've been in contact with my buddies on the Elite Series circuit and the Bass Pro Tour, and they are telling me that they've had it. They've been writing emails to the tournament directors, trying to get this banned, and they said that the tournament organizations are starting to listen to them because they can see what's happening. But the main thing that's changing it, which this is not what it should be that required this change, because there's other more important parts of it, is the viewership amongst the Bassmaster television series and the Bass Pro Tour. They're starting to see a huge negative impact and drop in viewership because of forward-facing sonar. All you have to do is look at the comments in my videos or any Livescope feed. You know what you see every single comment? It's like, this is the most boring thing to watch. I tuned in for 2 minutes and I turned it over to golf and bowling. I'm not going to sit and watch paint dry. Nobody wants to watch it. Nobody wants to watch it. And if I was an advertiser with Bassmaster or MLF or any tournament organization, and I started, and I'm paying attention and I'm paying these people money to advertise my products, and I'm sitting here and seeing all the viewers say, we don't want Livescope, well, this is boring, I'm not going to watch your show, I would say, why do I want to invest money in this tournament organization when you're going against what your viewers want? Viewers do not want to see Livescope crap. They don't want to see it. They want to see freaking Denny Brower jerking a 5-pounder out of a bush. They want to see, you know, somebody pitching a spinnerbait against the bank and having a 7-pounder flush it under the water. They want to see somebody throwing a buzzbait against a grass line and have the thing exploded on. They do not want to see, you know, these dudes out there in open water weenie worming around staring at a screen. So that is probably going to be the thing to change it. But on top of that, you've got to add into that this whole aspect of how it's destroying our fisheries. You guys know what barotrauma is? Let me tell you, barotrauma is something that you don't hear much about, and what it is, it happens to a bass when it's pulled out of deep water, which most Livescope fish are. When you pull a bass out of deep water, people think you can just fizz it and it's going to be fine. That's not the case, guys. When you pull a bass out of deep water that's caught Livescoping, like those big smallmouth up at the St. Lawrence River, they suffer damage to their internal organs and their eyes pulling up out of that deep water. And most every one of those fish, guys, are going to die. All those 4 and 5 pound smallmouth they caught at the St. Lawrence River and they hauled back in, running back in 6 and 8 foot waves, probably most every one of those fish are going to die from delayed mortality. They may be semi-living when they weigh them in and they call them alive. They're going to die a little bit later. That is one of the negative aspects about forward-facing sonar. The next thing is the sustainability of the fisheries. We've talked about this before. I get emails and texts all the time from people around the globe. You know, I've got 20 different foreign countries that subscribe to my channel. They are talking about the populations of fish in their prospective countries being decimated by forward-facing sonar. You have all of the freaking meat eaters that are getting to using forward-facing sonar that are keeping the bass. And up until now, all of those fish, like they were catching at Lake Ontario, St. Lawrence River, Lake Champlain, those fish that were suspended 30 foot down over 60 and 80 feet of water, those fish were protected before. Nobody ever messed with them, and they needed to be there for brood stock. And now there's nowhere for them to hide, nowhere. Every single bass in the lake is open game, fair prey, and it doesn't take, you don't have to be Einstein to see what that's going to do to the fishery, you know, over a period of time. Along with it goes against all the tradition of bass fishing. It takes away the mystery and magic, and once you take away the unknown out of fishing, which Livescope does, you have devalued the overall point of what fishing is to begin with, just to name a few things. But the main thing, guys, is this is a huge development. When you start having tour level pros that have basically been silenced because they're scared to come out against forward-facing sonar, when you start seeing these guys, they know their careers are being threatened because they know they can't compete with just forward-facing sonar all the time, because they've, you know, a lot of these guys are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and they spend a lifetime developing styles, and they cannot just forget about everything they learned and change it. They don't want to do that. When you start having this vocal opposition of the touring pros, along with dropping television ratings, along with the public that doesn't want it, along with the public that doesn't want to watch Livescope, the tournament directors and the tournament organizations have better listen to that, because they're not very smart if they don't. And here's my message to the tournament organizations. You guys have got to you guys have got to stop letting these electronic companies strong arm you into pushing your business model down to the toilet, because that's what's happening right now. If I was in a tournament organization like Bassmaster or MRLF, I would tell these tournament organizations like Garmin, Lowrance, Humminbird, whatever, that subsidize the tournaments, it's like, hey, we have reached a precipice, and it's to our best interest to eliminate forward-facing sonar from our tournaments. You guys can still make a bunch of money by selling your GPS units, your 2D sonar, your down imaging, your side imaging. There's plenty of money to make in there, but we are not going to allow forward-facing sonar in our tournaments. And when you do that, and when you do the right thing, and when you fight the good fight, the public is going to respond to that. If the Bassmaster and MLF come out and say, for the good of the sustainability of our fisheries, even though it may affect us financially from our compensation from these electronic companies, we are more concerned about our fisheries and the sustainability of our fisheries than we are making more of a profit margin. The public will respond to that. The public will respond by becoming more loyal fans. They will watch the TV shows more without having Livescope on there. The viewership's going to go up in the tournament, the tournament TV shows. It's a win-win for everybody. If you make a list, the advantages of allowing forward-facing sonar versus the disadvantages, the advantages of banning forward-facing sonar and Livescope are through the roof, and there's no advantage whatsoever to keep it there. There's zero advantage. The only advantage to having Livescope and forward-facing sonar out there is to the 20-year-old kids that don't know anything about bass fishing, that can turn on a video game and use that effectively. That's the only benefit. So anyway, guys, point of the matter, this is a huge development. Do not discount how big of a factor this is to our eventual goal of banning Livescope and forward-facing sonar. And to all you bass pros out there, and all you other people out there that have had the balls to stand up and say enough is enough, I salute you guys. You guys are doing the right thing. You're fighting the good fight. Keep it up, and we'll keep you guys informed as it goes along. So thanks for tuning in.